Robschild. Nothing I say is investment advice. Welcome to the show where we discuss viewing financial markets through crystal ball gazing. JP Morgan once said, millionaires don't need astrologers, but billionaires do. And so we began. Not a whole lot of very interesting things going on in charts today. Overall, we have mostly a very, very greedy market. Interestingly, there's a little bit of a divergence between what's going on in the VIX, which is your typical fear gauge, which has actually been on this trend going up and seeming to be showing a bottom here. This is not going down, and so that fear gauge is kind of going up a little bit, and yet this other fear gauge, which I like to use, just is on the CNN business website, is showing that greed is getting higher and higher. You can see the previous close 76, we're at 77. Also a month ago 75, week ago 71, and we're at 77. So on that metric we see greed increasing, all while the VIX is showing a little bit more caution. However, that same VIX chart, we have a large tail on the top, which can mean a reversal, and so we might see this thing collapse tomorrow. If I'm going to be looking into my crystal ball, I can see the VIX continuing downward tomorrow, although I won't be betting on it directly. Next chart I found interesting today is the HYT, high yield corporate. This is one I like to keep a close eye on because it shows what smart money is doing in regard to their sense of how fearful they are in what's going on in the economy and in markets. And today we had a pretty nice green candle here, supporting the idea that the greed is worth having. And so for crystal ball reading, that kind of gives a sense of, strength, really, in the market overall. But we'll get back to that idea momentarily. Another part of this is the S&P 500 index. We're very close to that 5,000 mark. It's pretty inevitable. The crystal ball is reading very strongly that we're at least going to hit the 5,000 mark. A lot of people think we might hit it, and that might even be a long-term top. I think, from what I see in my crystal ball, I think we'll blow right past it. Very short term, it looks like the markets want to continue upward. I mean very short term. Another really important thing coming up is obviously Wednesday. The Fed is going to be making all these announcements as to what's going on with rates. It's funny, I hear most people talk about markets regularly, the people that I follow anyway, are all agreeing that 3 cuts is like kind of what might happen, and the 6 cuts that are priced into the Fed funds futures is a lie. They don't agree with the Fed funds futures. I'm not smart enough to fight the Fed fund futures. I think that those are a stronger indicator than most people give them credit for. However, they can change. Of course, when especially when the stock market valuation is going up so much, people have a higher perceived wealth, which can create higher inflation. People, the wealth effect, people see they have more money, then they can feel like they can spend more money. So there is that potential there, but I think there's bigger cracks under the surface than what a lot of people see. A few other charts I wanted to cover real quick. This is copper miners, global copper miners. Again, this is one of those markets that's been long suppressed. we had a valuation in 2011 of this entire market being worth in the almost $60, and since then we've gone all the way down to $9 or $10, and now we're somewhere in the middle. It wouldn't be surprising to see this break at least to these new highs. If we had a real major bull market in silver, going along with maybe higher price in gold, which a lot of people are expecting, this market may be very dry gunpowder. And I just want to point out this little pattern here, longer term from 2020 on up to here. We have a kind of a flag here. This is about 50% down. It's pretty much it's a pretty good pattern right here. If we can break above this line, which we touched, if you want to count these, 1, 2, 3, yeah, we broke through it there, but we're just going to count that as 3, 4, 5, 6. It's funny with crystal ball gazing, 7 is often a magic number when it comes to markets, and so if we see it hit there again, maybe on the 7th knock we'll break through and we might have this market really take off. So that's one thing going on exciting in copper. The next chart that I wanted to bring up, 30-year yield. I had mentioned last week that I saw this shoulder here, that it broke through, and it retested it here successfully, and so that gave me the impression that we were headed straight up to 4.8. However, and it kind of looked that way the next day, but today we broke the other way. And so what that tells me now is that this market's now in kind of a consolidation. This can still break that trend line and get to that target. It's possible, but it's less of a sure thing. Once you break out of a pattern like this, the pattern has a lot less strength to it. So when I look into my crystal ball on the 30-year bond yield, Treasury bond yield, I don't see anything. It's a complete fog, and I can't see through it right now. I'm hoping for my sake it actually goes back up, because I want to participate in locking in a higher interest rate with this vehicle. I think it would be a great opportunity, and I'm quite sure I'm not the only one thinking and feeling this way. Next main chart, I just wanted to look over the Fed funds futures probabilities. Again, this is pricing in 6 cuts, and I had said, when I look at my crystal ball, other people are saying there's no way they're doing 6. It'll be 3 maximum, maybe even less than that. They might be right, I might be wrong, but I see maybe even stronger cuts than maybe more than 6, so 7 25 basis point cuts perhaps, or even 8. How about that? That's what I see in my crystal ball. And my only reasoning is, typically when we see a cutting cycle, once the Fed starts cutting, it doesn't usually just like stop. It pretty much has to keep cutting into weakness, and we don't even have weakness yet. Once the weakness starts, it usually gets out of control, and the Fed has to keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting. And that's kind of what I see in my crystal ball. So anyway, the most interesting thing coming up is the Fed announcement and what they say about potential rates in the future from Wednesday's meeting. So really, Wednesday's the next big event to see what in the world is going to happen next. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Robschild.